Are those letters just from sisters?
Those are just from the last. Okay. Well, that's gonna take me like 2 hours then.
Oh, you know, I think it's work. It's too late now. We'll scan that QR code. Use our phone as it for my iPad.
Oh. I mean, you know where it is, how to get back to it?
Exit out back in. All right. Every note.
Is that what it was?
It was. No, it wasn't. Okay. Still a lot of it?
I would access.
See my word. Yeah, you're right. No. That couldn't be it. Because it's gonna have to access when you don't want to.
Yeah. I don't know.
Forget it. We'll figure out from all that. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was already checked. So, how do we get back to this?
No, it was 3 months. You gotta wait to show again.
Yeah, but what's going on with
It's going. Just go back to the Zoom now.
Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah.
Patterson here, Finley here, Lewis, present, Linky here, McGill here, Seacrest, absent at the time, Schwartz.
He said he's later.
Schwartz.
Here.
Whitmore.
Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
There's a correction to our agenda.
Let's get it on the table.
So moved. Support.
Okay.
You have in front of you, it's, TA, contract.
We're going to approve that. And what are we gonna call it?
Everybody is.
And that's
It's D. It's D. It should be D.
Under 11? Under 11? No, okay. Under 11, 11B.
okay. So it's on this agenda, resolution 2023-32, resolution to amend the purchasing of service agreement with the Ann Arbor Area Transportation Authority will be reviewed in D and move it. Correct? Okay, so approve the minutes.
So moved.
one set tonight. Yes, we do. You gotta approve the minutes from April 17th, 2023.
I have a,
You have a correction.
correction. Page 4D, under the ARPA Funds Committee, the ARPA, wait a minute. The ARPA committee has decided to disband. We didn't make a decision to disband. We, completed our charge from the board and it's officially dissolved.
Are there any other corrections?
Yes. The last, word should be identified.
I guess you were the first lead.
Last one. Any other? Saying, okay, we're approving the minutes as amended here.
Aye.
Yes. This takes us to citizen participation. So I have to make an announcement. The fire chief said we're getting close to maximum. So he wants me to point out that that is an exit right there. And obviously that is an exit. So in case there's any event, you know, you gotta know where your exits are at. And we're gonna do citizen participation tonight, and I hope that everybody can be respectful to everybody and no shouting or hooting or booing or anything like that. Let's get through it. I think the entire board knows that there's a split of opinion on this. You got all the letters.
Wait more. Here, there.
Maybe four, yes.
Just come in.
And so we will, we'll call if you like, raise your hand, identify who you are, and where you live. Don't have to give us your address, this is the street and the township that you live in. And then I'll give you 2 minutes and you get time people. And I hope that we hear something new tonight because we know exactly how most of you feel on one side and how most of you feel on the other. So with that, I'll open up.
Can I add to that, please, Supervisor?
Yes.
I don't know how many people were at the planning commission meeting, but it was the best peaceful planning commission meeting that we could ever ask for. No one clapped in between, no one made comments after a person presented, and we're expecting the same behavior to be very respectful of each other. And more than that, I would ask that we form at least 4 people so that we're not waiting for a person to come up to comment. This is public comments. This is not the public hearing for Garrett's Space. There are people other than Garrett's Space that will have comments to share with us this evening, so I hope we respect everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, and that gives me a good idea. Do we have any citizen that wants to talk about something other than Garrett's Space? Yes.
Hi, my name is Irma Golden. I live at 1585 Sheffield Drive, and I do respect, I know we're gonna have a long meeting, and so for the last 2 meetings, I didn't come up and talk because there was other things to talk about. But I just have a couple of things, for the board that I know you're going to discuss tonight, and because I can't talk once you're discussing them, I just wanna make sure that you cover a few things. The first one had to do with the sidewalks. Ken, I know that they came out and marked the sidewalks. What I'm asking is that when you write your letter, if you haven't did it yet, that you let the citizens know the ordinance, because I've had a lot of neighbors wonder about the crack. I know the ordinance, I read it, but they want to know about the things that are marked and they don't understand it. The next thing I want to ask you about is on last meeting, the board packet. The board voted on, what was that? The board voted, I don't have my. The board voted on resolution 2023-23, and that's the resolution to work on some roads. And so I was looking at the whole cost, and I think they voted on the one $1,700,000. Then I also saw the memo, and my question was, I just would like to get addressed, why was there four areas separated? It's in that memo that you wrote. And then when I did the math, the total cost was $330,000. But for those four properties, it came out to $244,914. The 2023 budget is $150,000 plus $94,914 from local matching funds. So when you minus the $330 from the $244,914, there was $85,000 that needed to be spent. But the amount everybody is going to pull from reserves is $105,000 instead of 85. So I guess my question to the board is, do you buffer things? Because if you buffer, then what's the point in setting up a budget? And so I just wanted that to kind of be explained.
Okay, Irma.
Thank you, Irma.
Is there anybody else who'd like to discuss? Anything about Garrett Space? Any comment on that? Sir, you got your hand.
Please line up in groups of 4, come up to the podium so that we can just keep the comments going.
And your name and.
Yep. It's like pulled up on my phone here. Okay. So my name is Joshua Stumkus. I'm from 9734 Aspen Lane, the Arborwoods community in Superior. We have discussed the ethics and legality of this project. Ethically, the answer is obvious. Legally, you have the zoning commission's support. But what about the politics? That's where the rubber meets the road. If you vote your conscience, well, you get voted out on the next election. This is where I live. Arborwoods, and yes, it is in Superior Township. It's the same size as the build site and its immediate neighbors. It is 578 houses, 1,416 neighbors. Just 20 new neighbors are causing hysterics in the whole not in my backyard crowd communities. 20 neighbors all behind at least 200 dense feet of swamp and woodlands, all of whom have been evaluated by mental health professionals as safe to themselves and others. That's not the case for my 1,400 neighbors. Many can't afford mental health care. I actually see them when I go to the mailbox or swimming at the pool with my daughter, and that's fine. That's what it means to have neighbors. I'm not afraid to live there. But these NIMBYs can't expect to bear the burden of 20 unseen, verified, safe neighbors when I get along fine with 1,400 of mine. Their concern isn't for their safety or for their property values, it's for their status. Garrett Space threatens nothing except their sense of superiority. Having neighbors or needing support, that's for those unfortunate people beneath them, living off in the southeast corner of the township. Well, that's not concern, it's contempt. In the last week, I've knocked on 140 doors organized in my neighborhood. We viscerally understand that subtext of contempt, and nothing makes people angrier than being treated with contempt. The NIMBYs have their contemptuous fear and a lawyer, but they don't have the numbers. There's only 10 actual neighbors. And even NIMBYs have a hard time caring about someone else's backyard. Our ceiling is a lot higher. Everyone who would benefit from Garrett Space or love somebody who would, or has real neighbors, can feel that contempt, and it motivates us to get up and knock on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ty.
Next one, sir, please identify yourself. Before you look.
Hi, my name is Steve Taylor. I live on Tanglewood Drive. I'm the president of the township. So, members of the trustees, you have an important decision in front of you tonight. We've heard about the master plan, and a lot of it has been written about the master plan. The master plan is why we have a township, such natural beauty, such rural character, and also diversity. And so, I think, and you also get the power to make the decision about how we use the land in our township. Garrett Space needs the open space, or it needs the natural space. Garrett Space is not an experiment. It's based on data that shows that an open space is good for calming the mind. Garrett Space is something that every mental health professional that has spoken up about it realizes that it will be safe, it will be staffed by licensed professionals, and it will be something that we desperately need. I don't need to tell everybody how bad the mental health crisis is in our community, in our country, to make that point. I've heard a lot of concerns raised by my neighbors, and many of them are very legitimate. A lot of questions about land use, sustainability. The Planning Commission has answered all of those So I've also heard questions or concerns from my neighbors that I think come from fear and stigma, fear of mental illness, fear of things that are unknown. Well, Garrett Space, because the health are very determined, will be built and it will have neighbors. The question is, and the question before you, we're deciding tonight is, will you make your decision out of hope and compassion, or will you make your decision out of fear? Will you make your decision to do something that will make a small step towards addressing the mental health crisis that we face? Thank you very much.
Yes.
Hello, my name is John Graydon. I'm a resident of Burnside. And I'm also a psychiatrist, a stereopsychiatrist. I'm the founder of the departments. In discussions pertaining to therapists. I'm a 50-year resident of this locale. This community, this area, and the township. I want to make a comment made at the meeting, which is we've come through a pandemic. Not here to talk about that. We have another one. You can't turn on the TV, you can't read it in this paper. It's replacing the increased anxiety, increased sleep problems, increased suicide attempts, increased deaths. This community, I think, has an opportunity. Will be important. What's needed is to find these things earlier, to intervene in residential treatments.
My name is Jeff Gaynor. I live on Vulpes Circle. I was a classroom teacher for 38 years here. I'm currently an Ann Arbor Public School trustee, but I speak for myself tonight. I have 3 points to make. The first 2 I believe everyone will agree with, and the third is in response to the opposition to rezoning. First, as we've heard, there is a mental health crisis among young people. Garrett Space will do much to help. Young people's well-being and indeed lives are at stake. Second, I have known Julie and Scott Halpert for nearly 40 years. Their children grew up in the same neighborhood and attended the same schools. The Halperts are pursuing Garrett Space with integrity, with sensitivity, and with a deeply felt desire to help the entire community. Finally, I understand the opposition rests on other concerns. I say here that if there were problems with Garrett Space in this location, either due to danger posed to others or to property values, I would stand down. But I see this as a question of whether our priorities are to protect privilege or to support the welfare of the young people in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Russell Farjo. I'm a resident of Superior Township. I live on Overbrook Drive. I'm here to voice my opposition to this rezoning. I grew up on Joy Road in this township my entire life here. I moved away to graduate school, built a successful biotech company. I moved back. I didn't move to Ann Arbor. I moved to Superior Township. So when I had my family, I knew this was the township that my kids could have the same rural upbringing I had. None of us are against Colts NIMBYs. We're not against Garrett Space. I'm a title sponsor of Nights Fest. I'm very much a supporter of the mission of Garrett Space. What I'm against is rezoning something that is agricultural and rural in nature for this purpose. And we've seen with the communications between Carlisle Workmen, between Midwestern Consulting, and some of the board members, they recommended September 2nd. We find state license and other managed residential facilities use and approval process is the most appropriate. So I think my concern is that the citizens were not being heard at all. There's been no discourse, there's been no dialogue. Well, that's absolutely right, Richard. There's actually 142 letters you had in this 511-page meeting packet. I counted. 45% of those letters are from people not in the township. Of the letters of people in the township, 72%, 3 to 1, are opposed to this rezoning. It's not 10 neighbors. We have legitimate concerns. We have safety concerns. I'm concerned about some child wandering through the woods, thinking they're taking a nice walk, and some neighbor, since there's no demarcation between borders, thinking there's some stranger in their backyard and having some stupid violent act. This is not wild to talk about anymore. We see this in the news. I want a discourse. I would like some dialogue about this. It seems like this is just getting pushed without any real discourse. And I would really implore you to listen to your constituents. This has really galvanized us. We've bound together. We're going to fight this on a ballot initiative if we have to, and we're well funded to fight this, litigate this to courts. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Alexander, and I have a few notes here because I'm very passionate about what we're going to be talking about or what we are talking about. I'm here from 3 different perspectives. The first one is community, as many of us are. The second one is that of a person who had had a 20-year battle with depression, anxiety, and been very close to committing suicide on 2 different occasions. I also now, on a third level, am a parent of a young adult, 20-year-old Olivia, who has also clinically been depressed and anxious over the last 2 years, part of it, albeit the pandemic. This is all my own experience, but I'll say the overarching statement is that I really believe there's an overwhelming lack of resources who fall into the growing population of severely depressed individuals. I'm going to skip over the part of where I was treated, but just say that therapy and meds did work for a short time, didn't work, and caused me to be suicidal. So a lot of us who head in that direction don't have a lot of success in the early options that are given to people. It wasn't until I was consistently surrounded by a community of individuals who were struggling with some version of what I had that I began to feel less alone. And it wasn't until I was in an extensive individual therapy program that I began to see hope. These options don't exist for many. Fortunately, my daughter is stabilized, but if she begins to downward spiral again, I have no idea what I'm going to do, and I would do for her. Based upon my last 20 years, I know that Garrett's space will save lives and address the gap in the mental health system. And finally, as a part of the community, the first reason I mentioned, I believe we have a responsibility to those in the community. I will end with this. Wondering this afternoon what Google would tell me what the purpose of a community is. First definition that came up in Google was community enables us to share personal relatedness, support perpetual growth of each other, ourselves, and our environment.
Thank you.
I'm an Ann Arbor resident.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When you hear the bell, just try to wrap it up in the next step.
Good evening. My name too is Kristen Roberts, and I do live in Ann Arbor Township. My son Miles died 6 years ago, this May 28th, by suicide at the age of 15. In August of 2019, my husband Jeff and I started the Miles Jeffrey Roberts Foundation. I'm currently serving as president. Our mission is to empower youth athletics and mental health and suicide prevention. Now, Miles was not someone on your radar as an at-risk kid. He was outgoing, energetic, handsome. He was an athlete. He played hockey, football, and swam. He was an AV student, freshman at Skyline, trying to find his way as a young man. He did struggle with anxiety and depression, but didn't meet your typical scenario for an acute care and hospitalization. And yet, he's not here today. I'm convinced a residential program to focus on holistic health, as Garrett's space is intended, would have helped Miles. I've interacted with many people in their late teens to early 20s through the Miles Jeffrey Roberts Foundation who need this type of programming to learn toolkit management of their mental well-being and to manage the triggers to avoid hospitalizations and prevent suicides. I'm grateful to the helpers for their courage to create this residential center. I hope you will support Garrett's space proposal to thrive in the healing nature setting of Superior Township. I encourage you to remain open as an opportunity to see Garrett's space as an opportunity to support our youth's potential, to contribute to the future of Washtenaw County and our state of Michigan. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, Madam Clerk, Madam Treasurer, rest of the trustees. My name is Felicia Braybeck. I right now have the honor of serving as the state representative for the 33rd House District here in Washtenaw County. I was also proud to be able to speak in front of you all a couple of weeks ago, along with my colleagues from both sides of the aisle, to send in a letter of support of Garrett's space. But I'm bringing a particular perspective to you. It's not only as an elected official, but I'm also a clinical psychologist. And in fact, I am the chair of the Behavioral Health Committee in the House of Representatives here from Michigan. I've also had the honor to be asked by Scott and Julie Pelford to serve on the board of Garrett's space since its inception years ago. Every day we hear cases at the state about the increase, Dr. Graydon spoke about this, about the increase in intensity and complexity, and just the sheer number of folks who are struggling with mental health. We hear about two main things, access and workforce. At the state, one of the things that we really try to focus on is what we can do together. We have a system of care that has holes in it, and we need to buttress that system. Part of the way we can do that is with public-private partnerships and Garrett's space, in places like Garrett's space that will be created in our communities to be able to address these issues of mental health. Having these vital resources embedded in our communities and in our neighborhoods is exactly the direction that we need to be heading. So I speak not only as a psychologist or elected official, but also as a neighbor. I spoke about this last time. I think it's really important. When my husband and I and our kids lived in our last home, we lived there for 17 years. So the majority of our time that we have lived here, and our neighbors who are just right around the corner from us, in our same subdivision, just yards away, we're also members of the intellectual and developmental disability community. We lived with them in community every day. And there were no issues, no issues. This is really important to remember. Thank you, I really appreciate it. I'm going to talk forever about that. I urge you. Thanks so much.
Hello, I'm Dave Raymond, resident of 3662 Voorhees, very close to the Garrett's. I want to express my sincere desire that this board does the right thing and approves this motion. For reason, personally, I've had my wife and I had a very close relationship with a student who was from Superior Township that unfortunately did take his life several years ago. In a space like Garrett's house would have been a big difference in this individual's life. So I just implore you, it really is a crisis that we need to address now. And we need to address it in our community because it's our community. So we need to take action and do the right thing. Thank you.
Good evening, hello. My name is Ann Wilhoit. I'm a resident of Ann Arbor, and I'm also a licensed clinical social worker. I serve on the board at Ozone House, so tonight I'm here representing Ozone House. As many of you are familiar, Ozone House is a local nonprofit organization that provides shelter, safety, and support for young people experiencing homelessness and other serious crises. We are in Washtenaw County, just outside the border of Superior Township. Ozone has shared with you all via your clerk a formal letter in support for Garrett's space here in Superior Township. In that letter, we have also shared about the urgent need we see each day for more trauma-informed mental health services in our community for young people. Resources such as Garrett's space. One of the many services and programs that Ozone House offers is our 24-hour crisis line, which is accessible via telephone or text. Our crisis line receives over 2,000 contacts a year. If our caller is 10 to 17 years old, as one resource, we can offer a welcoming place for them to stay through our Safe Stay program. Recently, our crisis line received a call from a parent whose adult child was struggling with the exact issues Garrett's space is proposing to support at his residential community. Our crisis line staff member had to tell this parent that there wasn't anywhere locally they could turn to receive this kind of residential-based support for their adult child. Garrett space is desperately needed. The challenges faced by young adults in our community are serious and hard, and they don't just happen to young adults somewhere else, they happen to young adults right here, as witnessed on our crisis line. By approving this project, you are a pivotal step in affording Garrett space the opportunity to be an answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jim Jezorowski. I don't live in Superior Township. I live in Wayne, Michigan. But I've read extensively about Garrett. What a wonderful human being he was. I'm so sorry that he took his life. I wrote a letter to Miss Finley, and it says, I'm writing to express my strong support for Garrett space. There was a time in my life that I contemplated an attempted suicide. Thank God it didn't materialize. There were no places in Michigan that could accommodate me or even understand my mental condition at the time. I am 71 years of age. Since there were no facilities in Michigan, I had an opportunity through work to enter a treatment program in Arizona called Sierra Tucson, which was in a tranquil area north of the city. It was located in beautiful nature surrounded by mountains. And that's what people need. They need to be in nature. They need to be in a serene facility and area. That, along with knowledgeable therapists, guided my passage out of any suicide ideation. I'm doing well today due to being part of that experience. There are so many young people and older adults as well that are suffering from depression, suicidal thoughts, and potential harms to themselves and all around us. This country is in dire need of mental health care equal to our excellent hospitals that provide our physical ailments and disease.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer LaFleur, 10400 Joy Road. And my husband and I are in full, complete support of Garrett space. And I'd like to share 3 reasons why. First, we both believe this is a very thoughtful and aesthetically pleasing use of the property that's intended to be in harmony with the natural setting and part of the beauty of the township. Second, it creates an opportunity for us to be a community leader in promoting a culture of health and well-being, which is critically important and something we should stand for. And third, that it helps to fill what is actually a desperate gap in the mental health continuum in support of depression care. And I would say that the patients that Garrett Space intends to support are not like those people or other people. It's our people. It's us. It's our loved ones. It's our children. It's my own child. And I fully believe that this is something that would be both an attribute to our community and to the mental health community. Thank you.
Brenda Baker, Ashton Court. The planning commission normally gives sound advice. This time they missed the vote. The lengthy recommendation for approval is a slightly condensed version of the findings in the township planner's report, which essentially says that rezoning is permitted under the master plan. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should or have to do it. Planning commission states that they have held a public hearing and received comments. There is no reference whatsoever to the source or content of the public input. The residents of Superior Township had no voice. If you read my letter, you know that I had started tallying how many written comments had been received from township residents for and against, and from how many had been received from non-residents for and against. Then I realized non-residents are only moved to write or speak if they are in favor of the rezoning. Otherwise, they have no interest in what's going on in Superior. Additionally, there is a limitless number of non-residents from which the applicant can recruit letter writers. And yes, some were from out of state, while the number of township residents who exist to offer input is a more modest number. In my initial sample, 83% of township residents expressing their views were opposed to the rezoning. The Planning Commission is charged with applying the master plan, and they can include factors such as public input at their discretion. You, the township board, are different. Yes, conform to the master plan, but at the same time, represent the people of the township who elected you. Between now and the second meeting in June, I suggest that you direct someone at Township Hall to separate the communications into two files for your review, residents and non-residents. All communications are worthy of review, but the views of the people who live here and whom you represent should carry greater weight. Say what you want about these outside interests, but their heavy-handed, manipulative approach to getting what they want in our established community is not neighborly. And if you vote to rezone and the business doesn't make it, we'll be stuck with an oddly zoned parcel.
My name is Laura Welcher, and I'm here as a neighbor to the proposed Garrett Space facility. I live just off of Dixboro Road on the other side of M14 in Ann Arbor Township. My home is similar in value to homes surrounding the property. I'd like to address a few specific objections to the facility as stated by the circular I received by mail created by smallgroupofneighbors.org. Traffic. There is already high traffic on Dixboro Road. I do not think this residential facility is significantly impacted. There are plenty of trucks and semis, there's speeding, and drivers are aggressive. There's no shoulder and it's dangerous for pedestrians and cyclists. I would welcome improvements that would calm traffic and make Dixboro safer for non-motorized use. If the zoning helps achieve that, I'm in favor. Noise and pollution. The primary noise and pollution adjacent to Dixboro Road comes from the existing uncontrolled heavy traffic. Dangerous. Violence is a legitimate fear, but not a reasonable argument against this facility. The real fear seems to be the property values and disdain for the stigma of a mental health facility nearby. Americans everywhere are armed to the teeth. Some of these people are fearful, unstable, and paranoid, and they are already in our neighborhoods and communities. There's more to fear from knocking on a neighbor's door, or having your children in school, going to church, going grocery shopping, or being in public spaces. We know gun violence happens in all of these places and happens frequently. Part of the problem is we stigmatize mental health, and sufferers are often invisible and left unsupported and untreated. We need better care for mental health in our communities and more of it, not less. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Ron Flowers, resident of Dexter. I'm also a professor at Eastern Michigan University Department of Leadership and Counseling here on a personal level and a professional level. This past September, I lost my youngest son. Statistically, I want to provide some data and some insight from a professional standpoint. My understanding of the population of Superior Township, a little over 13,000. Of those, about 4,000 would fit the age group that we're discussing, adolescents, young adults. If the data that is presented, meaning 4 out of 10 young people in this age group experience depression, anxiety, or suicidal thoughts, that would mean a little over 1,500 residents of Superior Township, your constituents, your grandsons, your children, the kid that mows your lawn down the street, the kid that babysits for you, reside here. So consider their mental health, their well-being, as you consider the impact this Garrett space will have. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Kate Davis. I'm a resident of Pittsburgh Township, and I live in Washington County. Growing up with my mom was both a blessing and a curse.
Publicly, she maintained an image of compassion and of caring. However, behind closed doors, that care was subject to her whims. When I was in elementary school and she felt like she could control me, this was mainly a problem for my dad, whom she couldn't control, and so she would enact explosive arguments with him. But when I was partway through middle school and started questioning her actions, she started to turn her rage upon me. It had nothing to do with either my dad or I, but did have to do with the fact that she had sustained significant trauma in her life prior to meeting my dad. But it would be decades before I pieced that together. Frequently, because in front of others, my mom was so nice. When I would get upset with her, reconciliation would be pushed for me to accept an obligation for her. As a matter of fact, because she was so good at me. This led to me feeling extremely lonely and isolated. Depression and anxiety plagued me, and my only refuge was going for a jog or a bicycle ride. And of course, meeting up with friends who had been through some dark times themselves. Something that really helped me was being able to leave the family home and step into truly supportive environments like living on campus. Living among my peers, even if for a short duration, brought me much needed joy and exhilaration. I could finally breathe. But for many of my peers, they were taken advantage of in this vulnerable new growth period and lost their lives as a result. Garrett Space seeks to provide that support network of peers who get you, which is a vital component to suicide prevention in a way that protects young adults while they are establishing themselves in our world. While there are different kinds of mental illnesses, the focus of Garrett Space is to provide a reprieve for those facing depression and anxiety, two highly treatable conditions that currently there are no residential facilities for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Bond. I live at 314 Hills Green Boulevard. I'm a human rights commissioner for the city of Ann Arbor and mental health and well-being advocate in the very city of Michigan. And I want to start by saying I want to state my immense support for Garrett Space Residency Center at this location and at this time. I can go into depth about how I'm academically and professionally qualified to discuss the positive impact that Garrett Space will have on our community. However, I won't. Today I'm here not as someone with fancy titles and accolades. Instead, I'm here as someone that Garrett Space would support in the residential program. I'm a 25-year-old that has struggled with depression, anxiety, and eating complications for over a decade. As a board member of Garrett Space and a mental health advocate, I've attended all but one of the planning and trustees meetings. While these meetings should have left me feeling invigorated and hopeful, I instead felt severely disheartened as I heard several statements that highlighted how people, adults, were fully conscious of the fact that young adults were currently suffering to the point that suicide felt like the only viable option to end their misery. Yet some of the same people were actively working to hinder that support that would help reduce the frequency of young adult suicide, which is preventable. Let that sit in. Despite the data, the pleas, the recognition that our suffering and death, it's still not enough for some people to see that Garrett Space is in the perfect spot at the perfect time. I think I speak for many young adults when I say that we've had enough of our literal lives being disregarded, our experiences and needs being diminished, and the utter lack of effective action that makes things better. We needed action decades ago, so it's about time that we do it now. I know many people think Ann Arbor is a haven and a place of exception, but it's not. In fact, in 2015, a Washtenaw Community Suicide Death Review Team launched this report. It has several recommendations. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Victor Hahn. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm a resident of Ann Arbor. I know nothing about zoning. I present that I do, but I do want to speak about the issue of safety, which is something I do know about. I'm a psychiatrist and medical director of the Psychiatric Emergency Services at the University of Michigan Hospital. Many of you know that if anyone in our community and surrounding communities is violent or aggressive due to mental health crisis or substance intoxication, police and ambulance bring them to the unit that I direct. So we see all comers and definitely know violence risk intimately. The clientele participants at Garrett Space will not be those individuals. I've been part of many meetings and there will be more meetings where the helpers and the leadership of Garrett Space are turning over every stone to make sure that the participants will not be a threat to others in the community, trying to make sure that they will not be dangerous to themselves, to the other participants, to the staff members, and believe it or not, to the neighbors as well. I fully believe that the neighbors bring concerns and have an open dialogue with the helpers and the leadership of Garrett Space to propose reasonable guidelines to increase the safety of Garrett Space. I believe they'll be very open to those suggestions. Thank you.
My name is Margie Brower. I live in Superior Township. The rezoning of 3900 Dixboro has been a political awakening for many. What started off as a campaign to prevent an unlicensed, untested, unaffordable, and underfunded inpatient health facility in our backyard was born into a movement. Most of us left the planning meeting stunned when we realized our government had left us disenfranchised. We heard emotional appeals from outsiders who had no bearing on zoning laws. We saw the chair ask softball questions without follow-up. We were shocked to see the only board of trustee member resort to identity politics to attack our own constituents. Our planning consultant showed alarming bias as we supported development. We have tried to reach out to our political representatives at every level that was silenced. Our township supervisor said it would be arbitrary and capricious to talk to us. We have learned from outsiders that outsiders have greater influence on our elected officials than their own constituents. The same people that put them into office and pay their salaries. This is not a lesson we will soon forget. The fact that local residents are too intimidated to put their names on letters is a sad commentary about the township and Garrett Space. Garrett Space would like you to believe that it's either 3900 Dixboro or nothing for them. The truth is otherwise. A wooded site in rural Superior Township, grown commercially on 15 acres with 900 square feet, the 9,000 square feet facility is available. 78 vacant acres are for sale 1 mile away from Dixboro. Both are $4 million cheaper than 3900 Dixboro. The inflated price of this site should be a concern to every politician and taxpayer in this room. The events of the last few months have changed our collective political beliefs at the core. We have learned because an elected official may share our values, they will forgo their beliefs when pressure from outside influence. I doubt many of us here will vote again for anyone who votes in favor of this rezoning. If all politics are local, this local group is united and driven, and we will leave no stone unturned to keep our zoning laws and our master plan intact.
Hi, my name is Candace Toller. I am a resident of Superior Township. I've known the Halpers for many years. I was actually their first nanny. I've known Garrett since birth. I am short. We all know that mental health issues are something that needs to be addressed. Many of our young adults have lost the ability to help themselves out of a crisis. They've lost their peers during COVID, which made things even worse. With the programs provided by Garrett Space, the counselors, their peers, the wonderful nature setting that the Superior Township site would provide, Garrett Space would help them to regain what they lost along the way. In his short life, Garrett has helped so many people with their struggles that I can't think of any better tribute to Garrett than continuing to provide care for others in his name. I am asking everybody to please vote for the rezoning to help make Garrett Space a reality here in Superior Township. I can't think of a better place for our young adults to learn coping skills needed for life. And I do thank you guys for listening.
Good evening, my name is Jim Bauer. I'm a resident of Dexter, Michigan. First and foremost, thank you very much for allowing the public to speak on this. I am in support of Garrett Space. I'm a licensed professional counselor working at Washington Community College. And I've been in the field of mental health in the college space for well over 17 plus years. When I first started, the students that I would see for mental health services, it was a little bit more gentle. What I'm seeing now, especially in the last 5 years, is much more critical. Every day that I walk into the office, I'm at least doing 2 to 3 suicide assessments. My hope is that everyone in this room considers the mental health crisis that we're going through, and Washtenaw, the county of Washtenaw desperately needs this. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joya De Cruz. I live on Sheffield Drive, Spear Township. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. There is just not enough one-on-one support from our mental health system. This lack of professional help translates to individual and social trauma. I truly believe that group experiences and trainings and skills related to managing our emotions, relationships and such can be powerful and cost-effective, much more than individual therapy. So it's our systems that are actually needing reimagining. Our ongoing social crises are calling us to think proactively and protect our youth from what is dysfunctional in our systems. We need more community-based and community-supported efforts to destigmatize mental suffering, while simultaneously investing in health and well-being. Support Garrett Space, which promises to be safe, professionally well-equipped and supportive. Having our young people's emotional needs taken care of means that our families, our streets, and communities are also safer and healthier. This is an investment that will benefit generations. It is the kind of place I would support as a professional and community member. I truly do not believe it will be unsafe for neighbors. It might be unsafe in the long run if we do not have places like this. I hope that any barriers to its successful establishment be attended to, so that Superior Township can proudly be the place where the quality of individual and community life is valued and modeled. It's taken a lot of courage for many people to challenge the cruel and inhumane ways that our Indigenous, Black people, women, mentally ill people have over the decades been treated. We need to muster our courage and love and vision, do all kinds of rezoning in ourselves and outside in order to progress. Fear has been described as false evidence appearing real. Let us be aware of our fears and tend them compassionately while not giving in to them.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Harry Rye. I'm a resident and also a psychiatrist in Ann Arbor. And I really want to speak primarily to the population that Garrett Space is targeting, because it's the population that I see every day. I primarily work with people 18, 30. My practice is right smack dab in the middle of downtown Ann Arbor. And I just want to speak to, these are not young people who are delinquents. These are not young people who are dangerous. They're young people who are suffering. They are your grandchildren, they're your children, they're your cousins. One of the reasons I am so moved by Garrett Space, driven, very talented, but they are struggling. And they're struggling because we do not have a community. There is no place. We do not have enough office hours. I'm asking that we try to think about it, that doctors, people require, but
You guys stop being inappropriate.
just want to say that.
Very
No.
immature. Please stop.
Yeah. I kicked him out.
Right, sorry, that was weird. But I just want to say briefly that these are young people that are suffering. They are very, very talented. They are people that have incredible futures ahead of them, but they don't have a community. They don't have people that look at me. I mean, I'm old, but they can feel comfortable with me. I can joke around with them, but they need their peers. They need people like them to lift each other up. And I cannot tell you of another initiative like Garrett Space. So I'm a strong advocate. I strongly believe in what they're doing. And again, I just want to say that these are deeply need our love, that deeply need our care. And our current system, I'm saying something is not going to work. What we're doing in psychiatry is just not enough. We need love of the community. We need beyond nature. And I just want to give my full support to the initiative. Thank you.
Can you crap and stop, bud?
I but they keep unmuting themselves.
Shorter. Good evening, Mr. Shorts, members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Dino Smith. I currently live in Ann Arbor. My wife and I had the privilege of raising our 3 boys here in Superior
Guys, can you listen to Connie Wood?
down the road and around the corner from the property being discussed tonight. In fact, if you lived here for a while, you probably saw my boys and I bicycling or walking by the very property. One thing that makes this such a superior place to raise a family is that we take care of each other. So I'm standing before you this evening to ask you to please approve the proposed rezoning for Garrett Space. This is a picture of my son, Lucas. He was a gifted violinist, but also a regular kid who grew up in our neighborhood, liked to ride his bike, go fishing, read a book. But struggles with anxiety and depression are real and they're widespread. We sometimes don't see them, but they're right here in our community and in our families. I truly believe a facility like Garrett Space
Can we like ban this
made
guy,
a difference
please?
for Lucas.
He keeps joining
He
back.
died by suicide last September at age 24. For him to have a place that wasn't his parents' home, where he could be supported in healing and finding his way among other young adults, to know he wasn't the only one struggling, and that there are people other than parents to talk to and turn to for help, would have been huge for him. I'm so very sad we weren't able to provide something like that, but I'm hopeful that we, this community, can do it for others. That's the Superior Township that I know and respect. Where I work, I'm touched by the mental health crisis in schools that we face on a weekly basis, usually more often. Creating a place for these folks, for these young adults, to find healing in community is one step that we can all take. And I urge you, trustees of Superior Township, to please, please, please take that small step for all of us. Thank you.
Sorry, but there's a really inappropriate name. You see that?
Good evening. My name is Irv Leon. I'm a clinical psychologist and adjunct associate professor in public health and medicine, and I also am the citizen of Ann Arbor. We have heard many of the good reasons to allow Garrett Space to be developed in Superior Township, but I want to challenge a bad reason. Our society still stigmatizes those with emotional problems. They are viewed as more violent, irresponsible, and more likely to forget problems. However, studies indicate that is not the case, that those with mental illness are no more dangerous than the general population. Throughout history, societies have isolated and denigrated our emotionally ill, literally locking them up in so-called mental wards and throwing away the key. Now, things are much better today with more humane treatment and less separation from others. However, stigmatization still exists, leading to discomfort with contact with the emotionally troubled. This results in there being more strain from others, which reduces support and can lead to difference. My point is not to imply that those members of the Superior Township community who object to Garrett Space being in their space are any more prejudiced to the mentally ill than the rest of the population. We all have been taught to shun, to some degree, the emotionally ill. The closer proximity of residents to Garrett Space can make those myths and caricatures appear more real and frightening. Ironically, those negative stereotypes are most successfully challenged by closer contact with the emotionally troubled. We all should not give in to our fears, but instead open our heads and hearts to allow Garrett Space to do the good they do. Our young people are suffering, not threatening. Everyone in this room may know someone in their family or a neighbor or a friend who might sometime in the future benefit from the understanding and support provided by Garrett Space.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, I'm Janet Gilsdorf. I live at Zanglewood Drive, Superior Township. I've lived there for over 40 years and love the nature of our township. I'm a retired pediatrician at University of Michigan, and I'm very aware of all of the struggles of young people. But I want to talk about change, because change is hard. It's always hard. And it's particularly hard when it's clouded by misinformation, by fear, by uncertainty. When I think about the alternative to Garrett Space, which I sincerely support, occupying that Hicksboro property, it's not going to be a farm. The alternative is another subdivision. That's not what I want from that property. I want it to remain the beautiful property that it is, with the beautiful building on it, with the people who need it so badly. benefiting from its purpose. I strongly support and urge you as well to support Garrett Space.
Hello.
Keith Brandt, Brand Real Estate. I'm a self-proclaimed real estate expert. I'll back with some data. Top 2% of Southeastern Michigan, brokers with 5 agents or less. I've sold more vacant land parcels in the state of Michigan since 2018. So I know land, I've seen a lot of it. 3900 North Dixboro is an amazing place. It is super special.
Is that real?
There's nothing on the market like it, and I haven't seen anything on the market like it. It's a perfect space for Garrett's Space.
Yo, come on, I want to say something. Oh my
As far as
God.
property values, there's nothing in FHA appraisal guidelines that would allow an appraiser to discount a property's value based on what they have planned. There's nothing. There's too much acreage. They're too far away from the residential properties. Traffic, zero concern. There's nothing that can affect it. But I'm gonna back this up. So anybody that feels Garrett Space will affect their property value, you'll get a free market analysis. So it's $350 to $700. I'll do it for free. Whatever value I give you today, if I can't sell your property for that in 2025 or later, I will do it for free. And I'm only even doing me free. I will pay the buyer's agent. We're talking on a $600,000 house, a $36,000 offer. $1 million house, $60,000 offer. I'm not offering that because I want to lose a bunch of money. I'm offering it because there's no way the property values will be affected. Thank you.
Excuse me, Keith, would you please state where you reside?
Earth, no, Northville, Michigan.
Thank you.
My name is Genevieve Taylor. I'm a resident in the Arbor Woods community here in Superior Charter Township. I've also been living with mental illness for the vast majority of my life, starting at just 11 years old. I was fortunate enough to be able to get the care I needed to save my life, but rarely do people think about or talk about what comes. It's easy to overlook everything that's really needed to recover. I'm nearly 40 now, and I'm only just finally starting to truly heal and thrive. That's why places like Garrett Space are so critical for our youth. Following a crisis, the people around you don't fully understand what you went through, and you fear opening up to anyone around you because of the stigma around mental health and preconceptions of what it looks like. And it's so isolating. Programs like Garrett Space help people heal and have the support they need so they don't spend nearly 2 decades trying to figure out alone, or worse, fail. I get it. Nobody wants to think about the aftermath of surviving a suicide attempt. It's easy to think that just a short hospitalization is enough to suddenly make years of trauma and pain simply disappear, and that poof, we're suddenly normal, productive members of society. But it takes so much more than that. We are still struggling. We are still fighting. We are still trying to find our way in this world, except we are expected to put on a happy mask because that's what makes everybody comfortable. It's painful, it's lonely, and it is terrifying. And far, far too many young people get lost in that fight. Now, for the sake of today's youth, I hope that if they ever have to experience This is how we take care of our community. Let's put action to our words. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lori Roddy. I'm a resident of Ann Arbor. I'm here today because I'm the executive director of Neutral Zone and Arts and Leadership Space in downtown Ann Arbor. I've had the privilege of knowing Garrett as a musician, a poet, an arts curator for other young people, and a young person who really stood up for justice, equity, and inclusion in others. You know, the conversation we're having today is rooted in a lot of fear, the same type of fear that we experienced at Neutral Zone 25 years ago, where there was a series of city hall meetings and conversations, because people believed that young people who came together in the same space would be dangerous, right? That harm would happen, that violence would occur. And what we know is that when young people come together with support and resources where they know that they belong and they matter, that they thrive. Today, in October, Neutral Zone will celebrate its 25th anniversary. We're in a place now where we support over 400 young people each week in arts and leadership opportunities for free. That's totally accessible to young people. We have a workforce development, a college track with full scholarships at WCC. We're changing people's lives. People will come from multiple other states, regionally, to look at our restorative practices, our youth adult partnerships, and understand the field of youth development differently. We had no idea 25 years ago that we would ever be in a position today. But when you put the kinds of talent and expertise that Julie and Scott have already brought to the table, you put the opportunities with the experts, there is so much incredible potential that can come out of Garrett Space. It's a tough place to sit where you do tonight, where you have community members who have real fears. The challenge of leadership is to try to figure out how to take those fears and to bridge it with community resources and opportunities. And my hope that is in 25 years from now, from a distance, Garrett Space will be something that you're all very proud of. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kasha Upton. I'm a resident in Ypsilanti. And I ask you to bring a lens of empathy to this conversation today. Over the past few weeks, I've talked to many of youth that I go to school with and that I organize with who share the same feelings that I do, and that we are so happy to see organizations like this serving youth in our community. I ask you to think about how we feel and the struggles that we are going through and the crises that we are enduring. There is a lack of safety that we feel when we endure these crises, such as the mental health crisis we are enduring in America. We do not have enough resources to deal with this. What this family has done and what this organization has done is that they have taken this immense amount of pain and turned it into a way to heal and beauty. I urge you to ask the question, who deserves safety in this community? Because young people are not the ones feeling safe here. There is this conversation around home value and property value. Maybe I'm too young to understand, but I hope I never thought property value is more important than the well-being of
Skylar.
think about the future of this country we're making this in these rooms. This is what healing looks like. This is a bigger question about how we deal with mental illness in future generations. The start of the story is in your hands.
Skylar wanna greenie. Skylar wanna greenie. Skylar wanna greenie.
It's people like you. Kids like you.
I live on Warren Road in Superior Township.
Get the heck out of
Bought my
here.
property and built my house in Superior in 2017 because of the rural aspects of the community. The community that we truly have, the neighborhood we truly have.
The guy with the broken arm.
Halloween, a community that comes together with the neighbors.
Hey,
Somebody
person with
mentioned
the cool
community
hat.
neighbors, in a larger complex. I didn't move to that for a reason, because I didn't want that aspect of the community. However, I've enjoyed to get to know my fellow neighbors. Something I can't say that will happen with Garrett Space with 20 to 30 transient people every month.
Who is talking right now?
I have children that wander.
What's
I'm
your name?
directly adjacent to the property. And I want them to wander. That's how I grew up.
Guess they
When they
left.
wander into somebody else's yard, my neighbors call me. How am I supposed to get to know 20 to 30 transient people over the course of a month, knowing when they wander to my property because they just don't know the property? Or vice versa, when my kids wander into theirs. I find it ironic. Using what I would consider bully tactics on those of us that are neighbors. Bully tactics that lead people into depression. Talk about 20 to 30 residents serve in this facility. How about all of those neighbors on Warren Road and the surrounding areas that are going to be displaced because of this community? How about my kids' anxiety that I already have to deal with? Now they've got to worry about other people wandering the property. I want to reiterate the dismay that I had.
They didn't even care to hear the interest, and they only raised one motion at the hearing for opposition, or I mean for it.
They here are Superior Township residents. Raise your hand. In 1982, I started business in Dixboro. I've seen all the changes. I try to get things rezoned to build a 20,000 square foot warehouse, and went through all kinds of trying to get data to the committee and everything else. I don't hear any of that going on here. Nothing about the traffic patterns, water situation. Accommodate changes. The other issue is that the other issue I have to take care of is the deer and the coyotes in the backyard that brought onto this property. Who's going to take care of it?
You're still in here, John?
We need to get back to the basics of what we're trying to do here, is figure out, can this be zoned in such a way that it will safely take care of the rezoning? And at this stage, we're not. More worried about mental health. My daughter's a mental health specialist. My son lives here in Superior Township.
All right, that's fine.
So,
John.
Let's go back to the basics.
Sean.
Worry about the mental health issues. It is important.
John.
Let's first make sure.
John, seriously.
Properly handled.
Kanye Wood? Kanye West? Wife? Kanye West's wife? Kanye West's wife is in the meeting. No way! No way! Ho, ho, ho.
200 feet from the Okay, I want to tell you what happened to me after eating that call. I got home. Our wife of 59 years, Connie. She says, "How's me?" I said, "Not good." "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, if I watch the way the meetings conducted, I watch the body language of the board members, I think they bought into this barrage of appeals that made to them, rather than trying to relocate this to a place that has proper zoning. They seem to be bent on putting this in this residential area."
Oh my God, stop bombing us, please.
She says, "Well, I can't do that. It's against the law." I said, "Well, number one, they can do that. And number two, whether it's against the law or not, a judge will have to decide that, okay? The zoning ordinance is clearly against it, but whether a judge, what side he comes down on, I don't know." She thought for a second, she says, "Honey, I want you to teach me how to use a gun." Somebody talked about fear, okay? This is a 81-year-old lady that shot a gun 6 times in her life. And so I explained to her, I said, "Look, you want to use a gun for self-defense, and I know a little bit about this. You need to be very, very proficient. You have to be so good that you operate like muscle memory, okay? Because when your adrenaline's pumping, when you're under threat, you don't think like you think in a normal place. So if you want to do that, that's fine, but understand it's going to take hours and hours and hours of training, and you're going to go through thousands of rounds of ammunition before you ever get there." At this point, she left the room. She came back a little bit later. She said, "Honey,
Thank you.
I know that that's not going to happen. Good. Can I have somebody give me? Can I use this time? I 28 years I've worked in this community. I'm the planning commission. I'm a CGA. I think I deserve a couple of minutes to tell the story because this affects my wife. Okay. No. You don't care. You don't care. No, you don't. You don't care. Okay. I understand. Very disappointing, very disappointing.
Is there anybody else?
I'm Ellie Saris. My home is 3900 North Dixboro Road. Tonight you have one vote that will affect our world in 4 profound ways. Commit to the community. Your leadership will exemplify your care and compassion for the vulnerable in this generation and beyond. That is, after all, the highest standard for a civilized society. Commit to humanity, creating an intersection between the natural environment and healthy living, create the prosperity of the spirit. Commit to the planet. Garrett Space will preserve 60+ acres of open space for the future. This property will undergo change. Change is inevitable. That's life. Life is change. Tonight we have a choice. What kind of change do we want this property to see? Garrett Space or a commercial venture that's allowable under the current zoning? Your vote for Garrett Space is a pledge and a partnership, ensuring the highest and least use of this extraordinary property. I urge you to support the Planning Commissioner's unanimous recommendation to rezone this property for Garrett Space.
Thank you.
My name is Richard Dyer. My wife and I live on Becky Lane. We have a 15-acre farm. We've grown garlic and beets and tried to fit into the Superior Township plan that we bought into when we bought our property. A little bit surprised that there's such a degree of openness to amending the master plan to allow this change. It's not because we have any disagreement with the mission of Garrett's Place. We think that there's a terrific need for that type of space. You don't understand what has brought it to probably the most expensive parcel north of M14 in Superior Township. The Garrett Space people have pointed out that there's need far beyond this. This is just the start. It's not well explained to us why starting with the huge financial outlay to go to that specific site is the best solution, as opposed to any of the number of other sites that are available in Washington County that could also fit this need. That's really all I needed to say, I think, and that represents our position on this. We do support Garrett Space. It's a huge need for community. We just don't understand why there's a big push to put it in expensive place they could possibly purchase. Limited funds, why not spread them out and have more spaces like that developed in other locations?
Thank you. Anybody else wants to comment regarding Garrett Space? Anybody want to comment regarding the agenda or anything else tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you all for your comments. That takes us to presentation from public hearing. Well, we don't have a public hearing, but we have a presentation. That's going to be by Scott Helper from Garrett Space. Scott.
Some windows still open. Maybe they need.
No, I turned the heat on.
Well, they need to post. Don't turn the heat on, just turn it on. Close the window. Close the windows. Close the windows. Yeah. I think the windows are still open. Windows.
So originally there was on the agenda a presentation by Ann Arbor Area Transit Association on the purchase of service agreement by Ken Anderson, but that's been postponed until the continuing meeting. Sorry about that. Scott, now you have.
Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Albert, a co-founder of Garrett Space, which is Ann Arbor suicide prevention project. Garrett Space is under contract to purchase 7 parcels located at 3900 North Dixboro Road. We're seeking approval of our area plan application and our rezoning application to a planned community special district for our use of the site as a new healing space for young adults struggling with depression and anxiety. We were very pleased that the Township's Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of our applications, and we hope the board concurs with their findings and votes to approve our applications. It's disappointing for me to have to say this, but a group of neighbors opposed to Garrett Space has been fear-mongering and spreading misinformation on our center and postcard campaign. To anyone who is here today, in response to that, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you heard all of the public comment about how badly needed Garrett Space is. And we're also going to show you today why we believe we are far and away the best option for preserving the rural character. Our son Garrett died by suicide almost 6 years ago when he was 23. When he struggled, my wife Julie and I didn't know where to turn for help. We couldn't find effective supplemental support options that we believe could have made a lasting difference for him or that he would have wanted to try. We created Garrett Space to help fill this huge void in our healthcare system. Garrett was incredible in so many ways. He was talented, smart, and funny. He was a great poet. He made it to the finals of the local area high school poetry slam competition. He was one of the top tennis players in the state of Michigan for his class. He holds the record for most wins and #1 singles at Pioneer High School. But our fondest recollections of Garrett do not relate to his many achievements. Instead, we cling to our memories of the type of person he was, his kindness, his warmth, and his big heart. Garrett struggled despite everything he had going for him in what has become an increasingly hard world for this population. At the end, he felt alone in his struggles, even though he had great friends and a family who adored him. Eventually, he lost hope. Julie and I thought about those things we believe would have helped Garrett the most. It began with being in a healing and supportive environment with others, going through similar challenges, and helping him see that he was not alone. Since Garrett passed away in 2017, the mental health of young people across the country and in our community has worsened significantly. Young people are feeling isolated and alone and are seeing others' best and unattainable lives portrayed in social media. The statistics are staggering. Survey after survey show that more than half of teens and young adults nationally are struggling with depression and anxiety. And a significant percentage, anywhere from 15 to 25%, are actually contemplating taking their own life. This is just as true in our own community. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages 15 to 34 in our state. In our county, the number of mental health crisis calls involving young people this year is up 20% year over year. Here's another alarming statistic. Less than half of young adults with mental illness received treatment in 2021. We believe this last statistic reflects, at least in part, a lack of sufficient accessible inviting support options for this population. Julie and I now are frequently on the receiving end of calls from parents in the same position we were several years ago, pleading to us for advice, not knowing where to turn for help. So with the guidance of an unparalleled team of mental health experts and other professionals and years of planning and research, we've created a model of care we believe could have made a difference for our son, and that we're confident will do so in the future for thousands of young adults. Our model is based on what young people need most right now: connections, improved self-worth, coping strategies to get through challenging times, and hope that things can get better. Many young adults feel inadequate, lonely, or like they just don't fit in. Some are in their first romantic relationship, which when that ends can feel like a death to a young adult. The Garrett Space team interviewed directors at many of the top residential facilities across the country. With their help, we learned what would not work for them, and we're planning to incorporate their best practices. Our model setting is critical. Rather than a traditional, sterile institutional environment that holds stigma and trauma, it's crucial that our space be immersed in nature and its healing properties. A place where young adults can reset and feel like they can let their guard down and just exhale. During 3 to 4 week stays, our guests will be surrounded by a warm community of peers and caring staff, and participate in facilitated support groups with other young adults, and engage in mood-lifting activities like yoga, cooking, art, gardening, music, journaling, and exercise. The shorter stays make our model more realistic to attend than existing mental health facilities. Many of these facilities are designed to treat people with serious psychiatric disorders. Most require stays of 6 months to a year and are prohibitively expensive for the average family. Our model lets our guests continue to see their regular therapists via telehealth and get away for a period of time that's not nearly as disruptive. It's also much more affordable since the stays are shorter. We understand we won't be able to completely fix the mental health challenges of our guests during their stays with us, but we believe we can put them on a path towards seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. And we'll continue to support them after they've completed their stay by connecting them with other resources and by giving them the opportunity to participate in our day programming or our virtual groups, which we plan to continue after our center is built. Julie and I also understand the importance of helping families and allies of our guests who are in need of guidance, and we plan on providing that help at the center. Numbers-wise, we're planning for 15 to 20 young adults between the ages of 18 and 28 who will attend our residential programming, and an additional 10 who will come for day programming. This will not be a medical facility. It will not have the look or feel of a medical facility, and it will not be licensed as one. However, we will have licensed clinicians designing, implementing, and supervising our programming, screening our potential participants, assessing our guests on an ongoing basis, and supervising our other direct care staff. The attorney representing the group opposing Garrett Space asserted at the last hearing that our proposed center is akin to a medical facility or a commercial enterprise, and that it belongs in a zoning district established for hospitals and commercial businesses. These labels completely miss the point of Garrett Space and how we help young adults. At its core, Garrett Space is a warm, supportive community and place of healing and connection. Immersing young adults in this property's peaceful rural setting is integral to putting our guests at ease and helping them be fully open to receiving connections and other support. Relegating Garrett Space to a medical complex or commercial district would force our guests to miss out on these critical benefits and reflects a desire to treat anxiety and depression with the traditional institutional approach that holds little appeal to many young adults. Recall this statistic. We need fewer barriers to receiving help and more options that are attractive to young people. The opposing group's characterization of Garrett Space as commercial institutional development is false and offensive. Julie and I and our amazing team of volunteers all have the same goals: to improve the mental health of young adults and help save lives. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. No investor or shareholder is benefiting from Garrett Space. Julie and I personally have been working 60 to 80 hours a week for the past several years for no compensation and will never take a penny. Now I'll address the plans for our campus. Property already has a warm and inviting 5,000 square foot house located near the center of the site, which we plan to use for administrative offices and some small group activities. We plan to build two main structures immediately south of the house. First is an 11 to 12,000 square foot residential center with bedrooms for 20 young adults, along with large and cozy spaces, including a library, meeting rooms and social areas, spaces for telehealth and dining, and a fitness area. The second is a 2,000 square foot creativity studio for activities like dance, yoga, art, and music. Finally, we're considering adding in a later phase therapeutic animals and a small barn, which will be located farther south on the campus. If our use and rezoning are approved, we plan to offer day programming at the existing house this year after making any appropriate modifications. We would commence construction of two main structures after we receive final site plan approval in spring or early summer of next year. And then we expect to complete construction of our new spaces in early 2026 and provide day programming for about a year before beginning overnight stays. The group opposing our support option is trying to stoke doubt and uncertainty regarding our model. We have significant research supporting the efficacy of our planned modalities, including studies supporting the beneficial impacts of being in nature, group support, yoga, exercise, art, and music. We're also targeting two very well-documented factors, connections and coping strategies that, when missing, can present as a risk for suicide, and if bolstered, are protective against suicide. Our mission and programming are dedicated to targeting these factors. There's no difference of opinion among the people who should know, the mental health experts, about whether our model will work or whether it's necessary. We're in extremely capable hands. Here are the members of our advisory council and board of directors who are assisting with our efforts. And here are some of the government officials and agencies, nonprofits, leading mental health and public health experts in our area who've taken the time to send letters in support of the establishment of our center. And strongly endorse the need for this new option. This includes the entire bipartisan state delegation of elected representatives that touch our county. It also includes our county health department, our county community mental health organization, numerous nonprofits that work with our area youth, and a stunning group of leaders in Michigan Medicine, Trinity Health, and the entire CAPS department at EMU. A few months ago, we were awarded $4 million by the federal government to build this space. This award was secured by Congresswoman Dingell and supported by Senator Stabenow. Last year, even before announcing the possible acquisition of this property and our federal award money, we were able to raise over $800,000 to support our work. Yet another data point that shows how our mission and model are resonating with others and why our center will be sustainable. Going forward, our operations will be funded by a combination of philanthropy, private pay, and grants, and we'll also be pursuing insurance reimbursement. The private pay model will be on a sliding scale. All young adults will have an opportunity to attend our residential and day program, regardless of their ability to pay. The data points around our current programming bode extremely well for our expanded model of support at the center. We've been operating wellness groups for 2 years, where our participants meet virtually for a facilitated support group with peers, movement and breathing exercises, and a monthly in-person gathering. We've been able to provide this important support option to young adults free of charge for the past 2 years, in line with our nonprofit mission, something commercial entities don't do. Currently, we have 28 young adults enrolled. Since the beginning of this year, we've had 46 inquiries on behalf of young adults to join. The feedback we're receiving from our participants is extremely positive and gratifying. We're making a difference in their lives. Here's the geographic and age distribution of our participants. You can see that they're coming from Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, and surrounding areas. The group opposing Garrett Space and our support option claims we pose a risk because our center will be unlicensed. First, let's be clear. If we were licensed, the group would be saying we should be located in a medical district. The argument that we're unlicensed is a red herring, just another excuse to try to block Garrett Space. The state does not offer or require licensure for the level of services we'll be providing. While our guests have mental health issues that make them unable to function at the high level they're generally capable of, they're not so limited that they need personal care or assistance in the activities of daily living. That's what differentiates Garrett Space from licensed facilities in our state, like hospitals, nursing homes, and adult care facilities. It's not unusual for operations that provide healthcare services to be unlicensed in Michigan. Examples include physician offices and urgent care centers. Most residential assisted living facilities do not trigger licensing requirements, and they tend to provide a much higher level of services than what will be needed for the young adults who will be staying in our center. The important point to remember is that we'll have licensed clinicians designing, supervising, and running our programming. We'll also have an internal oversight comprised of mental health experts that will meet frequently to ensure that we provide the level of care and supervision required to protect our population. I'm now going to ask our clinical director, Peggy Gallen-Birdie, to speak about our programming. Peggy is a licensed clinician who previously was the program director for the past decade at Ellis Place.
Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. As Scott said, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have been working in this community for over 25 years in a variety of settings. Okay, so you have up there who we will serve. I know you have had the opportunity already to review this. I'm not going to go point by point due to time. We are meant to be a supplemental option for individuals who have previously received treatment and currently are receiving treatment. We will not be serving people who this is the first time for them to receive mental health support. They will have had former or current treatment. Garrett Space is meant to be part of a continuum of care, not formal treatment, but providing support and connection. The young people that we already serve and will continue to serve are those listed above. The groups are all co-facilitated by a licensed mental health professional. Already, currently, we do that in our groups and will continue to have licensed providers. Our goals are to build that toolbox of coping skills for the young adults to use when they're not at Garrett Space after they have left. The peer support is so very valuable, again, to decrease that isolation and build the connections that our young adults need, really that we all need. We will be teaching skills to calm the nervous system and decrease anxiety. Again, these are skills that we can all use. Our overall goal is to help them develop hope for the future. Hope is what keeps people going on tough days. Hope can come from feeling seen, heard, and understand, and from being part of a community. We will not serve any young adult who is in need of court-ordered or involuntary treatment program or any of the other criteria listed above. We have a screening process. It has been developed by mental health professionals and a team of experienced medical and mental health providers. We are committed to creating a safe space for our staff, our participants, and thus for the community. Those in need of a higher level of care will be referred on to that higher level of care to ensure safety for all. For our referral and intake, participants will be assessed by referring healthcare professionals as listed up there. Young people are also able to self-refer or be referred by their families. Those young adults will also be assessed by our mental health professionals as part of the referral process. They are coming to us voluntarily and they are coming for support and connection. They will complete intake documents and we will gather background information from them. We will also get from each young adult a release of information to communicate with their treating clinician and or family members to gather collateral information to assess for safety and the fit for our program. Again, they have already been assessed, all of them, prior to coming to us. We recognize that feelings shift and change over time. That has been pointed out. That's true in all of our lives as well. The work that we do is all about relationships. We pride ourselves on building strong, positive relationships with our participants, and we assess them regularly on a daily basis and constantly about how they're doing. We will, and already do, refer participants for a higher level of care if there is ever a need to do so. Finally, this word cloud was created in our group recently. The prompt that we offered was simply, what words come to mind when you think of Garrett Space? If you have ever done a word cloud, you see that the largest words are the ones that popped up the most often. Safe, love, and support are very powerful statements to the work that we do. I really want to say that these are the kindest, most compassionate humans that I have worked with in my 25+ years in this field. I am truly humbled each and every week by the connection that I see and the care and love that they show to one another. Thank you for considering.
Now invite our architect, David Saladick with Mass Design to speak.
Good evening, trustees. Thank you. David Saladick. I'm a principal at Mass Design Group. We're serving as the architect. So I'll speak very briefly tonight about the site plan and the character of the architecture, which to serve Garrett Space's mission will be warm, welcoming, home-like. It'll be beautiful, and importantly, it'll be accessible and trauma-informed. The design will enhance the site's natural beauty by creating buildings that are in line with traditional residential size and shape. We are planning 2-story structures with gabled roofs and natural material palettes that are carefully nestled into the existing landscape to preserve the site. Interior spaces will be designed to optimize natural light, views to the landscape, and will include spaces for a range of restorative activities that Scott has already touched on. Key campus buildings, there are 2 of them. I want to point them out here. One is the guest residence with 20 bedrooms, and the other is the creativity studio for recreation, movement, and arts. Just to give you a sense of the campus, this is the view of the great room, the living room of that residence. To support these buildings, there will be some parking on campus, but we are designing that to be as sustainable as possible, integrating landscape and utilizing permeable pavement wherever appropriate to reduce stormwater runoff. We will only be providing minimal down-facing lighting for safety, and we will use natural screening like the tree canopy and landscape that you see here to ensure that that parking is hidden both from Garrett Space's guests and more importantly, the surrounding neighbors. Currently, we are targeting a developable area of maximum 10 acres, shown here in green at the center of the site. Notice that this area includes the existing house and existing roadways, so the actual area of development is far, far less than that. That is allowing us to preserve the remaining 66 acres of the site, and Garrett Space has committed to establishing a conservation easement of between 55 and 60 acres. I believe a formal plan for that of around 58 acres has been shared for review. So as a result, new construction is consolidated next to that existing house to create a heart for Garrett Space campus where outdoor activities will occur. So this places new construction as far away from the site edge and surrounding neighbors as possible to maximize their privacy and distance from their developments. So I just want to point out some important distances here. So for the neighbors from the northwest and the northeast, the site new construction is more than 900 feet from their homes. It's more than 3 football fields in length. And in between, there's thick forest with dense tree canopy that minimizes visibility to the neighbors and will act as an acoustical barrier to minimize or eliminate any sound coming from the campus. Here's a view of some of that property. Regarding the visual impact of the project, from the existing house, we don't have any views of residential developments surrounding us. These views are from January with no leaves on the trees, just to see what we could see. This is a view to the Fleming Ridge development behind the trees, a view to the Wing Drive development also behind the trees, and another view to the Warren Road homes. Now, I can't say what the neighbors can see, but I do strongly believe that visual impact to their properties will be minimal at best. Just to give you a sense of that, I'll end here. This is a view, an aerial view from the Fleming Ridge development. And I just want to point out that all the new construction is happening behind the existing buildings. We really are thinking carefully about how to maximize the privacy and maintain the beautiful views that the neighbors have in this development. So thank you very much.
So although, as David pointed out, we are also far away from the home to the southeast, there is visibility to the new structures, and we're working with them to plant trees, privacy trees between the properties, and we'll continue to work with them as we have been to address any other concerns. I want to reiterate, the Planning Commission found that the impacts of our use upon adjacent properties are negligible. If our rezoning isn't approved, the owner of the property has indicated she will move quickly to find an alternative buyer or develop the property herself to maximize the existing 76 acres for single-family residential use. We're a significantly better alternative than a likely buyer or successor for preserving the existing habitats and ecosystems on the site, as well as the Fleming Creek tributary. In addition to the recommendation for approval by the Township's Planning Commission and Planning Consultant, our proposed use and plans for the property have been endorsed by the Huron River Watershed Council and the Township's Parks and Recreation Commission. Candace Breyer, with our civil engineering consultant and Western Consulting, will now walk you through a more in-depth comparison of our footprint versus the alternative of residential.
Thanks, Scott. As you mentioned, my name is Candace Breyer with Midwest Consulting. I'm a senior land planner and project manager with the civil engineering consultants. We've been involved with a lot of aspects of this property, and as part of the design process, we wanted to look at how the Garrett Space project compared to what a single-family development might look like on this site. So this graphic here shows essentially the Garrett Space project with a number of metrics that you could compare to a residential development. So the number of people, the number of vehicle trips, wastewater, stormwater, open space, those kinds of things. This next slide is an application of the zoning code for what would be a typical single-family residential development utilizing A2 or R1 zoning, which allows for 2-acre lots. We understand that for the master plan, there could be an opportunity for single-family development of up to 1 dwelling unit per acre, which would be over 70 homes, but we feel this would be disingenuous due to the extensive regulated natural features on the site. So in this study, we looked at a typical development with 2-acre lots, and this shows 34 lots, 34 homes on this parcel. We've estimated that with this concept, the single-family development could be built utilizing a site condominium or a typical subdivision plat option, both of which could be pursued under the current ordinance. So this next slide, you can kind of see an enlarged view of the metrics, comparing obviously 1 lot for Garrett Space versus 34 residential units, a population for Garrett Space, including all of the overnight guests, day guests, and staff of roughly 50 people, compared to a population of 89 people for a residential development utilizing current SEMCOG data based on number of people per household. Vehicle trips, we're looking at approximately 186 for Garrett Space versus 374 for the residential development. Wastewater drain fields, 16,000 square feet for Garrett Space compared to 136,000, assuming 4-bedroom homes on the 34 lots. 3 wells for Garrett Space compared to 34 wells for the residential use. Stormwater management, we would need roughly 115,000 cubic feet of volume for retention storage based on the proposed improvements at Garrett Space. And the residential development, you'd be looking at roughly 550,000 cubic feet. And then with regard to open space, as David mentioned, we're looking at providing a conservation easement on Garrett Space, as well as roughly 70 acres of open space. The residential development doesn't provide that same area. So you can see based on these comparison points that there's a number of items or a number of reasons why we think that Garrett Space would be much less intensive of a use than a typical single-family residential development. In fact, the Planning Commission noted at their April 26th meeting in one of their findings of fact that the low intensity use of the site compared to other permitted and conditional uses here is consistent in density and character with the existing residences and neighborhoods in the immediate area. Thank you.
Now ask Gerald Fisher, our counsel, to say a few words.
Supervisor Schwartz, members of the Township Board. My pleasure to be here, and it's my privilege to be here on behalf of the Garrett space. Gerald Fisher, Fisher Consulting, statewide land use and zoning lawyer, and have been engaged in practice for far too long. This is a very, very beautiful township. And it's clear from my analysis, that the Planning Commission and the board have taken great care in drafting a zoning ordinance and master plan to protect the area of the township. And I just want to hit very few highlights, just 3 or 4 slides on how Garrett Space will contribute to that beautiful township, and how Garrett Space complies fully with the master plan and zoning ordinance. In other words, it's, as suggested earlier, this is not going to require an amendment of the master plan or zoning ordinance. This is, I mean, it's a rezoning, but it's a rezoning in accordance with the master plan and zoning ordinance. So the intent of the zoning ordinance and master plan. This is a rural residential project, 76 acres with only 10 acres actively developed. The Planning Commission finding on that is that the area plan maintains the character of the site and the immediate area. The development preserves natural resources, surface water, wetlands, green spaces, steep slopes, and tree-lined roads. All the things that you could find in the growth management plan. The Planning Commission's finding was the proposed development meets the master plan and growth management standards of sustainability, maintenance of the natural resources, and reduction in visual impacts. The proposed use is compatible and harmonious. In other words, it meets the eligibility of the zoning ordinance and growth management plan for approval by the board. The Planning Commission found that as restricted in the zoning and land use agreement, the project is compatible with the growth management plan and harmonious and compatible with, and not injurious or objectionable to, existing and future uses in the immediate area. It's consistent with surrounding density and character. The low intensity use of the site achieves that, along with the 700 foot plus buffers. I won't dwell on that. In terms of state and national housing policy, the basic concept is that since the 1970s and 80s, that residences for people with disabilities should be in mainstream neighborhoods and not in high intensity institutions and other high intensity areas. The master plan of this township recognizes that rural landscape does more than simply provide scenery, as the benefits of nature to citizen mental health are recognized. It's very important. Finally, in the final analysis here, this is the best of all worlds. It provides needed housing. It provides, is located in mainstream residential areas consistent with state and federal policy. It preserves natural resources and natural features, and it's compatible and harmonious. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Julie Halpert, my wife, to make final comments.
I'll be quick. I know you're getting very tired, and I understand. Yesterday marked the 6th Mother's Day without my son. It's so terribly hard to accept that we could not save him. But Scott and I made a pledge to honor him and the way he lived a life of helping others. We don't want others to suffer this terrible. You look around the young adults in this room and beyond, many of them, as you know, are struggling with their mental health. It's likely that a young adult close to you is struggling with mental health. These are your children, your grandchildren, your friends and colleagues' children. And if you're the parent of a baby or a toddler or a teen, chances are, given the state of this world, that they too struggle as they enter adulthood. We need Garrett space, and we need it here in Superior Township. For the many reasons we've discussed today, this private and healing property is the perfect home for our center. We're bringing a critical resource to your community, and we know we'll be a great neighbor to all who live here. We hope to create improved stakeholder committee and have neighborhood representation on that committee. We request that you approve our use so that many young adults who are struggling in the township and the surrounding area have this place of refuge and hope. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Presentation to the board, I'll state the audience heard us too, but do we have any questions from the board directly to the presenters today?
Yeah, I do. When you all first discovered this site at 3900 North Dixboro, did you reach out to neighbors to have discussion, invite them to kind of buy into your plan? And if so,
No, that would what we did. We needed to go through a negotiation process, diligence process. So we did reach out to them in February timeframe, but really didn't get a response to our efforts.
I just wanted to say that I believe all of us have visited the property, and I think it provided us with a very valuable site just to see the neighbors. It is a beautiful property. I read all of the letters. I read your presentations and just, I'm sorry, I'll have some questions.
I'm just curious in my eye, what I thought. Like this work, what township. Feel sympathy with the neighbors who. Now, thank you very much for your dedication.
Thank you so much.
I just want to make a clarification in regards to the planning commission. There were, well, we're not setting a precedent with Garrett's place space, because I believe you're not doing so. There were two motions, two resolutions presented at that table. There was one for, and there was one against. The one that was read was for. Anybody could have voted no at that time. So I just want to clarify that there were two resolutions presented. We all had them at the meeting. That's it for now.
yeah, just one more qualifying question with regards to the space around it. As I drove through that neighborhood, I noticed there's a lot of newer homes immediately behind Garrett's space. So at some point, I'm assuming there was a zoning change to allow the development that took place in that area, or it wasn't, as it always been zoned.
I think it was done splits. That was the splits that needed, was already zoned in.
Okay.
Wasn't a subdivision, I wouldn't call it that, but I believe that Dennis came in, he did splits.
Here it is. Are they on the property where the homes that are now?
They own the property there.
Okay.
Do this. Nancy, you have anything? Lisa?
No, I just want to say that all of the time and effort and energy that everyone had taken up with this matter has been certainly taken into consideration, because whether one was for or against, and I certainly heard a lot of for. Proposed, but I just wanted to say I appreciate the fact that people have taken up the time. I would agree with that.
These are all the letters, both for and against, and I've had an opportunity to read every single one. And I want to thank all of our residents, regardless of the side that you're on, because your voices have been heard. I have read every single letter, and I hear you. I understand where you're coming from on both sides. And I think we're just at a point of, trying to make the best decision for what's right for the growth of our township. So I do thank you all once again, and just know that you have been heard. I carry these with me. I set them out here today so that you know every single response, regardless of who it was from, for or against, has been read.
All right, nobody else? I have a couple of questions. One is, this is on metrics. Has there been any, you identified a septic field for this expansion?
I'll let her.
And whether or not you did any soil borings out there that have applied to this.
I can speak to that a little bit. So we have had some preliminary discussions with the health department. There's been extensive soils testing done on this site over the years. We've provided that data to the health department. They've indicated that we don't need to do any additional soils testing, that what we've provided is sufficient. So our current plan is to, the existing septic field is kind of north, on the north end of the property. The current plan is to expand that field to accommodate the additional area that we need for the new buildings. There is sufficient soils there and space to expand the field as needed. We have provided some of our preliminary calculations based on usage and number of people and all those things to the health department. They're reviewing that information now, but they haven't indicated any concerns in our preliminary discussions. With regard to the wells, we have done some well testing on the existing well that's there to determine capacity, and it does have capacity to serve the new function of the existing building. And then we're proposing an additional well to serve the residential building in the creativity studio. We haven't done any drilling for that well yet, but in preliminary discussions with the health department, they have indicated that they don't have any concerns over that. So, and then in the future, if the barn is built, that would just be an agricultural well, like the irrigation well.
So, is the plan for the health, the septic field is currently expansion of the existing that services the house?
Yeah, well, it'll be in that same area. So we'll be building a new field, but it'll be immediately adjacent to that.
So were the borings taken in that area to be expanded? I know they were borings taken on the other lots.
Yes, there were borings taken in that area, which we have. I don't think it was in the area plan that we submitted, but we have that data that you would provide as part of our preliminary.
You don't have the soil?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a glacial moraine. Another question I have is, have you been a wetland?
Not that I'm aware of, but our proposed development is far enough away from any wetland limits that it don't impact.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is you said it'd be 34 lots, but you haven't done a wetland delineation, you find out that half of the lots are.
Well, my understanding of the current ordinance is that wetlands can be on the lots, but not in the buildable area. So that area plan does show wetlands on the lots, basically as 2 acre lots. But we believe that there's adequate space outside of the limits that we have based on available public data to accommodate other stuff.
And have you had any consultation with the road commission?
We have submitted, we had a preliminary meeting with the road commission where they indicated just kind of some general criteria that they would be looking for. They'd be looking for the existing driveway. It's only 10 feet wide. So they said we would need to expand that to accommodate width for a commercial driveway and asked that we added A-cell, B-cell takers to that driveway. So we prepared an entrance plan, submitted it to them, received some additional comments, which we're in the process of addressing and resubmitting, but they have not indicated any concerns over the driveway. Just asked us.
You know, I'd actually like to see a wetland delineation only because there's so much on your metrics. there's so much wetland which we have been told that there's a lot of wetlands, like half the land, but that couldn't be buildable. So I mean, just questioning the metrics so that we have a clear record on that. And then that's all questions that I have today. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. So I want to let everyone know what a first reading entails. So a first reading is where I am going to read the proposed ordinance change. If that passes tonight, which it will probably, then it goes to newspaper, it has notices, and then we go through the legal procedure of setting a meeting for adoption. At that point, probably in June or July, depending on how satisfied we are with everything we have heard, there will be a vote then, an up or down vote on the proposal and that on the zoning proposal, and that will be when the final zoning occurs, which would be after the publication of that action. So first reading tonight, if it doesn't go your way or doesn't go your way, it's not the end of the story. The end of the story is going to be in June or July. I only say July because in case the board wants more information at any time, have opportunity possibly to get information if there's any curiosity or. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask the board to do this now, a little out of order. Yeah. So what I'm going to do. What I'd like the board to consider is that under new business, we had this zoning ordinance as E. I would like to just reverse that, put that up at A, and take A and put it at E, so that we get the decision done. If people want to leave, they can leave. And is there any objection to that? Good with that? All right, so that'll be our first item on new business. And I think at that time, I'll probably have our attorney, Fred Lucas, come up and just kind of give a short, at that time, Fred, and talk about what the ordinance approval process is and what is happening tonight and what it has as bearing on the remainder of the zone. So with that, we have no objection. We're going to go in. We're done with our presentation report. Yeah, we're going to read reports now. So we're going to do the supervisor's report, and I'm going to with that. Supervisor. So after that big ice storm we had hundreds of homes that were hit with tree damage, and the board at the last meeting approved $5,000 to be able to chip those. Well, that wasn't enough, and so the person who was chipping says, "I can't come back for like 2 weeks." So I said, "Well, I think that I will extend this to you. If you would do it, I'll take it to the board." And they could deny you. He said, "Why?" So they did. They did charge us $9,000 for the chipping, of which $5,000 we have off. So I had brought to you tonight, gave you a copy of the remaining invoice, and that's where we paid $4,000 for the completion of that work. And so I would get a motion just so we can pay that.
Support. Okay, I like.
Oh, could we please keep the chat?
So which neighborhoods were actually picked up and
Send everybody an email of the names that were done. So Panama, and
no other ones?
no other ones, you know. Because I went through the newer subdivisions had small trees. They didn't get that far. It was a big tree. And then if you're north of Getty, you can burn. But I think Irma could probably testify that there was a lot of wood out there and it was all. So if I got a motion and support, that's satisfying.
I had just heard from.
They didn't get anything. No, but I expected there. They didn't really have anything. It was extremely minor. All right, you've heard the motion and support.
Evanston,
Sorry, what are we voting?
We're paying $4,000 to go on the tree chip.
Oh, that is.
Yeah.
I asked about.
Yeah.
I said yes.
okay, thank you. Lewis?
Yes.
Fenway? Yes. Winky?
Yes.
McGill?
Yes.
Seacrest?
Yep.
Schwartz?
Yes.
United.
So Lynette and I met with OTED, which is Office of Community and Economic Development last week, and we had requested the approximately $95,000 of federal funds that they're holding to be expended on the MacArthur Boulevard project. That's in process. It's not gonna happen until at least September. It takes them that long to do the environmental, to get it all done, and so hopefully the money will be available hopefully by September, but it could be as late as October. And then also Lynette and I had a meeting on the rec center, community center. I'll let Lynette deal with that. She gives her report. And I have requested soil testing for the MacArthur and Cary site from Bar and Company and SME, and I haven't gotten a response. I didn't put it in until after I got it. Hasn't been in long. And then I have a scheduled meeting to look at wood and brush clearance down Harris Road and on Arthur on the site that you're thinking about the community center. So be meeting the one person out there at Thursday. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to bring both feedback.
Supervisor Schwartz, who's the scheduled meeting with?
Scheduled meeting now is with HMR. Lady Lane.
Just want to make sure that other officials are invited.
Okay, 1 o'clock. You want to come on Thursday? No, we're gonna meet here, but then we're gonna go down. And then I asked the Park and Recreation Commission, the County Park and Recreation Commission, to accept an easement, conservation easement on the rock property, and we're not going to get a response. They have we have draft easement drafted now, so that would be something. It may be a month or two away.
Does this have to do with, in the minutes, our last meeting, we talked about having a meeting early in May. This property, is that something more?
Right. And so the county would be a good steward of that conservation easement. So we should be bringing back to that. But if you guys want to set a meeting time for that,
That's something that we, yeah, that's the last time. They thought we did that with that.
on that, no. You know, why don't we take a look at this? Maybe it's first and first in June. That's all good.
That's all good.
Well, I'm ready to go about like what in first of all.
I think we can.
We'll arrange it. Oh, special. It's gonna be more of a work session. And the well has finally been, all the money has been received by Pribley, and I believe they're going out this Wednesday to meet from Freeman to locate the well site. And I don't know when they got to locate. That's my report.
They also appraised that property, right?
Oh, they appraised the property, came back, I think at $46,000. That the village green was appraised in Dixboro. And the appraisal company came back and said the value of that property with the building is $46,000. In the event we approached the church about buying that as a township park, which I think a lot of us support, these principles. So that takes us to reports. And can I get a motion on I get a motion on the, oh, Actually, that takes us to the liaison report, for Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, and that's trustee Lynn.
Okay, I, did pass around a written report.
Just adopt that?
Yep.
All right,
So support.
all in favor of adopting, say aye.
Aye.
That takes us to Community Center Advisory Committee update.
My update will be very brief. One reason, because the tape recorder stopped recording, so I have to go back and get information. But the most important reason is because, this project is really going well, and I really can't share, finances yet. The next meeting, I will be able to come back and share a great deal with you. We should and may be able to receive substantial funding from the state, which would bring us close to the $30 million that's needed for the community center. We will just be looking for operational funding. The county will, as I've mentioned in previous meetings, they will be responsible for the actual building. We will not have any control as a township. They're hoping to have a YMCA combined with the community center. It will be on the site of Cheney. I have a captive audience, so I'm here to let you know that that community center is for all residents in Charter Township of Superior. And I hope to see that. It's not just for the east side where the building will be. So I'm gonna end there, and I will bring you a whole lot more information at the next meeting.
That will be available for Superior Adoption President. County enterprise, so anybody can.
I think I just said that.
All right, that takes us to departmental reports. We can get a motion on building, fire, ordinance, parks, and sheriff. Any questions on it? Saying none, all in favor, say aye. Treasurer's report, investment report, by the motion.
I had one question about keeping the account in later. They closing, something in here about, other banks, either your representatives saying anything to you, and then we have the changes. Right, you line up other way.
But we've had, right, exactly, Chasing that makes the banks and our three banks and, all have assured that our funds are secure and the way that we are investing is actually a very good way of investing in that. It's suggested that we wouldn't otherwise, as a matter of fact, they have reached out to me. I think on the morning, that Monday morning, I actually after, with about 2.5 months ago, after, there was a huge. I've been told that we're doing well.
All in favor of receiving the treasurer's investment report, say aye.
Aye.
Takes us to communications, can I get a motion to receive all the letters regarding the rezoning of the property at 3900 Dixon?
So support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That takes us to unfinished business. First A, I've already told you about the overgrowth removal along MacArthur and Library. We'll have some bids, I think, back on that in June. Same with the soil testing. It'll just take a little while to get those bids in. They want lots of information on that. And then letters to the residents regarding sidewalk repair. I'm going to be meeting with George this week, our engineer, to find out have all the flags been marked, and if they have, get all the addresses. We'll compose a letter and we'll put an FAQ on the website. I had a lot of calls on it because people see markings in front of their house. And most people thought the township could take that out of Jackson, but I had to make what the ordinance says. We really have had a very good. I want to know if they get a little time if they run behind money. And then we have a resolution, an unfinished business that we need to correct tonight. Resolution 2323. That was to approve the agreement between the township and the road commission for the 23 road improvements. There was a couple incorrect statements that were made in the resolution, and my memo was a little confusing too. So we got a contract from the road commission. And
And the correct.
I got it, it's in the back here. So essentially what we have decided to do, we have decided to fix the Harris Road approach on Gettys Road, to re-mill and lay 2.5 inches of bituminous material on Stanford Road between Barrington Drive to MacArthur, and do the same on Stevens Drive from South Kingston Port to Stanford. We're asking for, we're going to be receiving approximately 2,500 tons of 23A limestone that will be taken to the gravel roads. And the total cost of that delivered, approximate total cost of that delivered by the road commission will be $330,000. We have matching funds with the road commission to the state Act 51 of $94,914, which means we will have to pay to get all that work done out of our own pocket, $235,000.
So earlier, we heard from Irma Golden, she said that, it's just not on.
Yes.
So earlier, we heard from Irma Golden, I support how she came up with those funds. But she said that you, in this proposal, you're asking for $105,086 to be moved from reserves, but you only need 85,000.
We're only going to need 85. That was my estimate was high because, you know, this is August.
Okay, so why don't we just do the 85,000,
Yeah, we'll do
86,
85.
and then if it comes in higher, we can address it at that
That's
point.
what the new resolution.
No. That's what it'd be. And fun.
323.
Actually, the resolution, total amount. The resolution is silent on where you're moving the funds. From the.
From what it comes from.
No, your memo talks about, 105,086 coming from reserves, the resolution was silent. So,
Well, if you know the budget was 150.
right,
And
So-
to cover the total cost, estimated total cost, we're going to have to take 85,000.
Exactly. that, not the 100,000.
That's 103 to 25. One estimate go over. So that's the resolution on the table now. If I can get a motion for this, correct the omissions that were in the previous resolution and any errors that were made. So they were Scrivener errors. If I can get a motion.
So moved, is provided that we only include 85,086.
Yeah, well, I might be less than it might be more. Okay.
Lewis.
Yes.
Blinky.
Yes.
McGill. Yes. Sechrist.
Yeah.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Caviston. Yes. Finley. Yes. Shannon.
And then we have resolution 2324, it's a resolution to approve First Amendment to the pump station easement for the county park, which is tabled. So if I get a motion, we have. And then you should have.
You're talking about- No, this is the one I was in 2020. Right. But still, if the government ran, this is the same one that was before. We didn't do all that in terms of the. You all gonna check on.
The dates. Yeah, well, the dates in the resolution. Right. The 10th, that we got kind of tied up on the 10th, and that was from, I think, 2021 is when, that's when the first evening.
I think what our concern was, Ken, was that this said that it had to be done by November 30th, 2023. And since we know that the pump station has been taking so long to get done, we were concerned that we were going to miss that deadline. And we wanted you to go back and see if we could hear from
I hear you, but, remember, this is an easement, we don't have a right to.
Right.
They are offering it to us, so we can get our work done. If for any reason it doesn't get done by that time, they are demanding that we pay rent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how likely do you think it's going to get done by this
I
minute?
have to ask the engineer, I don't know.
So will it be done by November 30th?
Oh, no, that's right. The park commission's always working very well. You need a little time to.
And that's why we brought it up, because we thought if we were gonna call the Parks Commission to see if we could ask them what date.
Their lawyer says this is what it is.
Okay, right.
Mr. Jim Reed. Okay, so we get a motion on this? Can we get a motion, please? What? I mean, if you don't approve this, the whole thing dies right now. Hey, we have to.
We got this one.
Roll call vote.
Finley, yes. Addison?
Yes.
Lewis? Yes. McGill?
Yes.
Impress? Schwartz?
Yes.
Linky?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us to new business, which we are going to change. We have changed our agenda to take as new business A, ordinance 174-25, zoning ordinance, first reading. Give me a second. Read this. I'm not going to read all the tax ID numbers. I would read the tax ID numbers, but not the legal descriptions. Because that would take forever and it's just numbers and directions, and I think I would be a waste. You can check these with the parcel ID number if you want, and you can find the legal description there. So on first reading, which we're introducing tonight, which would be Charter Township of Superior, ordinance number 174, designated Superior Township. Charter Township zoning ordinance adopted August 4th, 2008, and effective August 14th, 2008, as amended. That was an amendment. And the zoning district map attached there to the made a part hereof are hereby amended by rezoning the totally described property at 3900 Dixboro Road, Section 7, known as tax ID parcels J 10 07 200 010 011 012 013 014 015 and 016 in Superior Township, Washington County, Michigan, from A2 Agricultural District, BC, Planned Community Special District, subject to review and approval by the zoning, subject to a review and approval by a zoning and development agreement by the township. Being introduced tonight, it will or will not be adopted at the meeting that we set up, probably in June. So what I'm going to vote yes on this tonight, but I haven't made my decision, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm still learning, I'm still uncovering some facts, and then I am really making a deep dive on it. But I think we need to do what's consistent with the master plan, and everyone on the board will have an opportunity between now and then to take a look at the planning commission recommendation. Yes, well, it's in the. And so we could, if we wanted to, we could just disapprove it. Further action, we can approve the proposed text without amendments and move it forward to the final reading, or we can refer it back. But the text is just what I read. It's just those parcels are going to be rezoned from AR to PC. That's all that's the whole zoning ordinance that we'll be adopting or not adopting in June. So, Brad, you want to talk about this at all?
Um, First of all, because we are a charter township may never adopt any ordinance. All charter townships require to have 2 readings of any ordinances. the ordinance amendments. So, I have provided the township with a copy of a checklist of the process to go through relative to the adoption of zoning ordinances for, charter townships. This is an amendment to the charter township ordinance. It's a map amendment as opposed to text. Difference being that a text amendment deals with questions of the language of the ordinance, whereas a map amendment deals with the question. There are certain things under the zoning ordinance that we must follow. I provide the township with a list of those. But as I said, today's vote, whatever it is not the end of this discussion. It is, we'll come back again at the next meeting or next meeting after that for a final decision. This is just merely a question of whether this process will be moved along or whether it'll die. Any questions from the board?
No. Anybody want to make a motion? To adopt, to introduce the rezoning? So moved. Any discussion on that? I have honestly have not made up my mind. You know, I think a lot. So.
Schwartz. Seacrest. McGill.
Yes.
Linky. Lewis. Finley, yes. Patterson. Janice.
So the second reading of the ordinance, which will probably be reviewed, Lynette will make that determination. She'll post it, you'll get notice of it, and it'll be put in the newspaper. And once the board confirms whether we need any more hearings on this, whether we need any more information on this, then we can decide what an appropriate date to present this for adoption will be. For that, we'll make that decision in consultation with the rest of the. Thank you. That takes us on to our next. If people want to leave, why don't we just take a 5-minute break?
Thanks. No, had I known again.
Construction engineering service for replacement of pavement at fire station number 1. Oh, we quit. Quit.
Okay, so we're gonna
It's your choice. I mean, we switched them. I mean, I'm gonna but whichever one.
You did. So A was zoning, the first reading. Right. B is,
No,
B
what,
is 2330.
right, and that didn't change.
That didn't change.
we just said.
It's B.
Okay, so, I didn't get an opportunity to read the proposal. Has to be, we have to have some engineering services in order to make this work. We have to work with MDOT and the road commission on it, and it's not gonna be as easy of a project as a community project. But we're gonna have a base, I believe the base is 12 inches. Yeah. So altogether, 22 inches of material has to be removed and then replaced. Slope, drain, and then pour. Why is it?
So the estimate that came in from OHM was way up from what the actual amount was. But that's a big discrepancy, almost. You're talking about the fire station.
Yeah, but you did a 62,000 engineering.
Yeah, this is the cost for engineering.
Oh, this is the
Not for
cost
the
for
total
engineering.
cost
Oh,
of the
okay.
project.
Actually, I thought it was okay.
Both of them are cost for engineering.
All right, so then we have 2330. Total not fee is not to exceed. And they'll be doing the award, they'll be doing the notice to proceed, and all the subcontractors, if there are any, substantial completion by August 19th, and then final completion by December 6th. So can we get a motion to get on the floor?
So support.
Okay.
So, and there's a payment to OHM for the procedure. For almost $5,000. Is that part of this?
No, that was for engineering service. Chris.
It wasn't, that's OHM. Okay, so that wasn't part of this. The one for you. So that's.
Okay, so there's a resolution on that, can you call?
Seacrest. Schwartz.
Yes.
Linky. Gill.
Yeah.
Anderson. Yes. Benoit. Yes.
Yeah.
Lewis. Yeah, I would never make no up. It's unanimous.
It takes us to resolution 2331, which is a resolution to approve both environment department drainage improvements and amendment to engineering service. So this one.
Talking to my report.
This one.
Over there.
What? No, you guys moved that down to E.
I have no idea. I thought what we did, and maybe I missed something, we moved, the ordinance. We moved it down to E.
We'll give you.
So then we came back and started with B, and then we're gonna do C, and D, then we're gonna.
Want to talk about this at all?
Oh,
The amount is 37.
That's just engineering, you've already, what's her? You did the engineering, you approved the engineering already. Project. We didn't want a new engineering for us, so we want to make sure that when we do the drainage, the grades that we set are adequate for walking footage and not in conflict as well as the structure.
Either can, like, the budget together or the, one thing you do with something straight there. Each vote will come out of you, so this is something we had to find out anyway, was to pay for those, that portion of the engineering out of the upfront vote.
Does this take away from the outstanding, beautiful equipment you wanted to put out there?
But if you want to give me some more, I mean. Get your property.
Look at here. You can filter up some trees.
Do we have a motion on it? No. So can I get a motion, from somebody? Or get it on?
Second.
Okay, so let's call the question and go ahead and do the vote.
Finley, yes. Haviston?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Lindsay? McGill?
Yes.
Schwartz?
Yes.
Seacrest? It's unanimous.
So we already did the resolution 2330 earlier in the meeting, so that's done. We have our purchase of service agreement with Ann Arbor Transportation Authority 10.
That's supposed to be.
No, that's not supposed to be. That's going to be on the.
No.
Next month.
We have not done that. This was brought to the table already. No, we didn't.
I thought we did that.
No, this is what I got from you today.
Okay. So this is resolution 2332. This is the resolution amending the purchase service agreement with Ann Arbor Area Transportation Authority.
I haven't even had a chance to read this.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to read it.
This is not for the this coming or next year. If you look at this, this is for the previous year. This is October 1, 2022 through September 30th, 2023.
We've been getting service. I thought we had signed.
And when I asked you in your office, the email hadn't been over and I just got this from you today. That's why I had to bring it.
I had asked you who did.
No, you had no email yet. Thank you. We need to, because we have to pay them. This will pass. This is not when they come for the future. Well, I think,
this is consistent with their proposals for the gas that's
this has nothing to do with that, Ken. What this is something that we should have done back in October. Okay.
But these numbers are consistent with what they were a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And you know, what's the service.
All right, we have to.
We need a motion.
Did you,
We need a motion.
We didn't.
No, we did not have this. Let's get clear, this is not what's on the agenda for a presentation that they're coming to do. They decided not to do that and they're gonna be at the June meeting for their presentation. That's what we tabled. Their presentation has nothing to do with that.
Okay.
This needs to be done because we've already received multiple services.
So that's probably why they're not coming to the Zoom meeting.
It has nothing to do with it.
Makes sense to me. So,
Okay, no, we didn't have a motion. So, thank you, Lisa.
I just have one.
Sure.
So we have to do a better. You know, we talked about not needing vendors. We in the township could like just have a spreadsheet. Or, you know, like that we keep track of these contracts.
Technically, as clerk, the invoices should come to me. No, some go directly to Ken.
Invoice, I never.
Agreements.
Agreements, yeah.
Okay, but maybe they didn't have the date. You had it. I can give you the date. That doesn't matter now. But stop saying things is not true.
You know, they didn't. you normally do. I didn't get it. And they asked me, was it signed? And I said, yeah, I think we signed it. We didn't.
I'm sorry. Forward.
Have a spreadsheet, so that we know that every year you do this.
And if it hasn't been received by the deposit invitation.
Okay, got the radar screen. It's in the budget. Okay, so you call the roll.
Sure can. Patterson. Yes. Finley, yes. Lewis.
Yes.
Linky. McGill.
Yes.
Cephas. Schwartz. Unanimous.
All right, now we go back to resolution 29, which is the resolution paying the fire station number 1, the pay replace pavement at fire station number 1. Vic, you want to talk at all?
We have to,
Yes.
Oh, yeah, right. That's fine.
say that again?
Say motion.
So moved.
Okay, now Vic, you have it.
Okay, so anyhow, we went through the process of the engineering study, all the surveying that was done, the core sample, don't have to do the permit were actually from road commission and so they sent out the bids, we've done through BidNet, well, it's always shown sending bids out or request for bids, and we only had one come back. And George went through and tried to find out why other companies weren't bidding, because all the large projects that are going on, plus the prices of that bids. So anyhow, the one bid came back with Dome Construction. A little history on Dome, they did Ypsilanti Township's fire station on Ford Boulevard, and they are now doing their fire station number 3 for place. The cement driveways. Her driveway is 17 years old. It's deteriorating very, very rapidly, and it's in need of being replaced. All the underground with the spore samples that were obtained, there's not enough under there to maintain the weight of the trucks. And it's just falling apart.
It's inadequate base and it's an inadequate thickness.
So, please.
Well, I'd just like to say that I looked at this bid and it looks like it was definitely apple comparison with apple to apple. So I love that because that's what I like to do. And it was interesting because the difference is $161,000. That's a huge difference.
You might as well say 160.
True, that is very true. That is very true. So that's a huge difference.
Huge.
And then that just concerns me. And then, but I mean, I'm glad that again, that it shows that we do need to do our due diligence by, of course, comparing and getting out to see what someone else is giving us and not just sticking with what someone says because we've gone with them before or somebody has recommended them to us. But I'm just like, wow, that is a huge difference.
You mean the engineer's estimate?
Yeah.
Yes. That is,
I mean,
that
that-
is a difference.
Well, I think
You
you
know,
can only show.
What's the
I would say, Bernie, go down there and drive it. It's hurting the trucks. It's completely shot. Completely shot.
No, I've been over there, I've seen it, it's awful, I agree. I'm just still trying to wrap my head around the discrepancy.
Yeah.
That's a huge.
Inflation is probably it, and the extra money that has been allocated by the governor, $3.5 billion for highways, plus the extra allocation for transportation. There's huge projects out there, and you see them all over the summer, and it's just time. They are able to ask for premium.
Yes.
Banana.
If you talk into your mic.
Sorry. I was wondering how it affects the reserves or like if this was this budgeted. Or are you taking?
Capital reserve, we have about 5.5 million in capital.
We did good nothing.
You are doing it.
We have money to afford it. First, I didn't know if we did, but.
Yes, our controller.
No, he asked his treasurer.
Okay.
All right.
Evanston? Evanston?
Yes.
Finley, yes. Lewis?
Yeah.
Winky? McGill?
Yes.
Seacrest? Schwartz? Unanimous?
Thank you, Dave. So we have a motion to approve an invoice from the Huron Watershed.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have bills for payment and record of disbursement.
So moved. Support.
So we paid. You just don't.
That's how we pay, yes, we pay them, and we'll pay them again in November.
Um. Oh. Saw something that, and I didn't realize it, but I was wondering what happened with the trees from Monday?
Well, we got the money.
We got the money, but
Yeah.
where are the trees? Remember, there was, where were they supposed to give us?
Supposed to give us 70+ trees.
No, they weren't to give us, they gave us $247,500, which Lisa put somewhere.
Was it 4 trees?
No.
It was in exchange for them removing the biomass on their property.
I'm on the planning commission.
They got 70 trees that are going on their property.
No, they were the terminology that they used, unless I'm crazy, was donation of trees. We can go back to the documents.
It's in the development agreement. In exchange for allowing them to take down and not have to do additional tree replacement on their own property. We calculated how many trees that they would have to done for finance to meet the ordinance. We translated that to how much would it cost? They said, well, like 247.5. Would you go ahead and pay it?
I don't think, did we do that as a board, Ken? As an entire.
We did, it wasn't.
Yeah, the 70 trees were what's going on their property landscape right now. They were never gonna deliver trees. They're delivering the rest of the money so we can get it.
Right.
So we go ahead.
No, currently they're still at the nursery.
We haven't bought the trees at all, because we probably have to have some.
See, that's interesting because I know that we're trying to get some community gardens up and they're in need of trees. If I'm correct.
Community garden was planted trees last year, but a couple of them died, I see. And they need to be replaced by, our goal.
Come on, TC.
Yeah.
Planted
I looked
trees.
at them today. So they.
The community garden did?
No,
Come out, Will
we had a grant from the United States Forest Service last year for like 75 trees, of which some amount went on the property on MacArthur. A couple of those died. So they need to be replaced because they were worn.
Sorry, I'm so lost. So I'm at MacArthur,
Where the old party store was at on the corner.
Okay.
So these are some of the trees?
You'll see there's new trees planted, they're small.
Okay,
A couple of them are dead, they used to be replaced.
got it. Thank you.
That was the U.S. Forest Department grant that we received and then we had a match.
Got it. They don't want to go.
They do,
Oh,
yeah, no, they're.
But that's not what I was referring to.
And what were you referring to?
I was referring to, if I heard Ken correctly, that they're donating trees, which I remember that from the planning commission. And I'm referring to the proposed ARPA funded TC Collins,
Willow Run Acres.
Willow Run Acres. Did I hear you correctly, that we just planted trees there and they died?
It was planted, I believe, October of 21. And they had a 1-year warranty, but you know, they already recognized that something that this was done to the tree.
Okay.
They were the ones who handled it.
Right.
They planted like 5 or 6 of them on that parcel, of which a few have died.
It's a long meeting, but my only clarification is that as a part of the planning commission, they made a comment that they would need trees. So it'd be great if we can donate some of the trees that we're supposed to have coming into that garden if it happens.
It's in the development agreement, there's a provision on it that, you know, says that in lieu, I'm paraphrasing, in lieu of all the trees that were removed and would have to be replaced on the site, they're going to put 70 on the landscaping plan, and they were going to donate to us the $247,500. And then we can go out, pick out our trees and whatever we want,
Exactly.
and put them anywhere we want.
We said the same
Yeah.
thing.
But then we're gonna do the tree.
She was just saying consideration for the Willow Run Acres to, instead of them utilizing their funds, because we're gonna be coming back to you guys for a small friendly amendment, next month, that we would like to, well, possibly have the consideration to donate a few for you.
Donate the money. You know, you all have that kind of thing.
Yeah, we got money in there. If that's what the board wishes to do,
No, I'm
we
not
can
gonna
allocate.
We can talk later.
No.
All right, this is the dream.
And if
You have another.
So, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Question, all in favor, move the bill for payment. Takes pleas and petitions. Are there anyone in the audience that has a plea or petition that the board would like to present to the board? Seeing none, anybody on the board have one? Okay.
It's, since the Dixboro Green was praised, 46,000, I was surprised at 31,000, I thought it was pretty low. I would like to discuss, purchasing it at some, maybe this year, just because when you look at how much we've already paid for different ones, maintenance for the well, whatever. It would be a good, investment, and we don't have the part-time. Maybe it's a close spot.
So I thought, and the church is the deacon or whoever Ken Shepard. And so it has to come from the church that they're even willing to entertain that at this point. So he said, give him some. And then they'll come back to us. Yeah.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Steve, or, phone for actually a letter right here. Why did it appraise so low?
If you want to copy the appraisal, send me your email and I'll send you the whole appraisal. I think primarily because building, it's not up to code, it has no heating, no plumbing, no well, no septic, nothing. It's just the land. And it's zoned for public use. So it have to be rezoned, maybe if rezoned to commercial, it would be higher.
Okay.
Sir, what was your last name?
RPRH.
Thank you.
Okay, so that takes us to adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, walk out here.
10:03?
Good night.
Sage.